Yeah.
I was on TTV, I was trying to record you, but it was 2:06 and I didn't get any signal, so I was wondering.
We just started.
Okay,
We're streaming
get
now.
back
Yeah.
on it, yeah.
Sorry.
All right.
Did you bring these down?
No.
Oh,
Lauren had them.
Lauren.
I'm assuming it's Lauren. Thank you, Lauren. Welcome.
2017.
That's the
I was a
older
teenager.
one, it's not,
Early.
That's all right. It'll give folks.
what's a good starting point from where we went from there, and that's where the committee left off.
So we're recording. I did just text Kim. I'm not sure if she's trying to get online or if she's still ill, so. It'd probably be helpful for everybody to have intro bio.
Yeah. So it's 6:08 and the meeting is officially open. We can, instead of doing roll call, we can go around the room then and introduce ourselves and say a little bit about ourselves then. Does anyone want to start? Dave, you want to start?
Jay, I'm Daniel, I'm on the town council and I've been a member of this group for a long time, liaison to the library board. Any board?
My name is Leanne Mankey. I'm the current treasurer of the Board of Trustees for Lucy Robbins Wells Library, Inc. I have been on LARC, the Library Addition Renovations Committee, since its inception in 2000. I am also someone who's been in the construction business since my teenage years. Had a family business, mechanical, electrical contracting. We did plumbing, heating, ventilating, air conditioning, fire protection, sprinkler, electrical and temperature control. We were a union shop with 4 trades and 3 unions represented. My forte was more on the business end of things, whereas my husband is a mechanical, electrical engineer. So between the two of us, we ran the place for several decades. It is since we have closed up shop. Husband is still in the industry, and I still have interests out there. So I know enough to be on a business, on a building committee, both from a contractor side, as well as having served on several building committees here in town, including 2 school projects, the Anna Reynolds and the Elizabeth Green schools.
Could do this single-handedly.
No.
Nobody could.
Maureen Lyons. I am a trustee of the Lucy Robbins Wells Library since 1992. Served in every capacity, I'm sure, on the board, including a 3-term president. I was president when we purchased our first parcel of land, which is now the parking lot. We had 2 purchases, and the first one was in 2008.
No, 5 and 7.
5 and 7. Anyway, I've been on the board a long time. I've been on this committee since its inception. And I don't have the technical expertise that somebody like Leanne has. But I know the library. And I presently do not live in Newington. I was a Newington resident for many, many, many years. My daughter went through school here. And then I left to care for an aging mother and went back to my hometown of New Britain. But as a corporate member, I don't have to be a resident of the town. My life, however, it appears, and my heart is in Newington. And that's it.
You're the current facilities.
Well, chairperson of the facilities committee on the board, because I've been on every committee. I've chaired most. It's been a long time. I'm sure there are some people that think that too.
Eric, I think I should probably go to
Me?
you.
Sure. Eric Hinckley. I've worked with town for 17 years now. Worked for the engineering department and in the planning office. Currently we have 6 boards and commissions that we oversee in the planning office. So I'm here a lot of nights, sometimes late. Prior to moving back to the Northeast, I also served on a library advisory board in North Palm Beach, Florida for a number of years. Officer as well. Yeah. Had some good stuff.
Library and technical experience.
Your next agenda item is to appoint a committee chair.
But we don't want to hear about the ad hoc people and our administrator.
It's up to you.
Okay.
So I'm sitting at the table, so I'll introduce myself. My name is Diane Stam, and I am the current president of the Lucy Robbins Wells Board of Trustees. I'm here as a very interested member. I have a long history of being on the board. I've been a part of the facility and site committee work that the library has done, so I'm mostly up to speed with everything that's going here, but I am a very interested member, and I expect that you'll see me at many of these meetings for public participation, or if somebody had a question for me, I would be happy to answer it. But my past life, I have worn many hats in the business world, and one of them was as a facility and site manager, so I have a little bit of an idea of what goes on, but that as time goes on, that hat is getting dustier. I'm currently emphasized more in the technology telephony area.
I'll just introduce myself for the camera, so it's not weird. My name is Lauren Ryans. I'm the Director of Administrative Services for the town of Newington. So now your next item on your agenda is to appoint a committee chair.
I have a question.
Sure.
2 empty slots. Do we have to do that tonight? The reason I ask is if I don't know who these 2 people may be, and I believe there is some talk of those positions being filled. I don't want to go
Yep.
forward, you know, so I'm just wondering if we should hold off for that until to give those folks input as well.
That's a good point, Leanne. I agree. If we're gonna have 2 more members, well, it increases the pool, of course, and I think we should wait until that time.
You can certainly hold off.
Can we utilize you then to start?
I was gonna
facilitate
say,
things until
yeah.
then?
I'm happy to facilitate until you have a permanent chair. That's fine.
But now, and you would be are you the scribe,
I'm your staff liaison.
and are you the scribe for these
I'm
meetings as well?
taking the minutes for this meeting, but it would be me, or we would have somebody watch the video afterwards and take minutes.
We're all on tape now.
Yeah.
Right.
Dave, is there any movement on the town council for the other 2 members?
Not that I know of. I have nothing that's been mentioned particularly, and I believe it's the other side of the aisle that gets to appoint those people, or the town manager. If it's ad hoc, it's the town manager, but
I think it's the town manager.
they can be
Recommended?
recommended from either party, and so I at this point, yeah, I'll add a little side comment if I know where the background about that's okay.
I will follow up. The town manager is off tomorrow, but I will follow up on Monday and just figure out where everything is with the placing of new people.
I'm pretty sure it was the town manager that
It
Yeah,
was in
I
the
believe it
past.
is.
was the lead the last
There
time.
was a conversation about that, I remember now.
And I know it can be, they can be recommended from all areas.
You're right.
Not only the political parties, but from, you know, the town manager, from the public in general.
Correct.
And it's not like some of the, again, I'm speaking from what I understand. It doesn't have to be 2 Democrats, 1 Republican, or
Right,
whatever.
there's no
breakdown like on some committees.
I also would feel more comfortable if it was done when Council Rada was here as well.
Yeah.
And one more question while we're on membership, et cetera. Is the general public welcome at these meetings?
Yes.
Yeah.
Always.
It's, that's when Diane comes in. That's right.
Too busy. Kim, says, oh no, I didn't have it on my calendar.
Oh, no.
And she's at a fire department meeting that also started at 7, but she's aware, Diane said that there was an invite. So I don't know if she'll have time, but
She might hop on.
too many things to do.
Well, the
For all of
other
us,
thing, I
yeah.
know that one of the things that we have to discuss too, and I think it's to have as many at the table is, I know we have to discuss when we would meet. You obviously want to get on board with what's most convenient for everybody, because I know some people have standing obligations.
Lauren, did you research through past minutes? How often? I can't even remember how often we met, every 2 weeks or something. I don't think it was weekly.
We were about every 2 weeks, then we started picking up the pace, and then we were kind of put on hold. And then, but initially it was about every 2 weeks, 3 weeks to get the ball rolling.
Yeah, and then in 2017, right before you stopped meeting, you were, it was like 3 random special meetings. So it wasn't necessarily on the schedule. The start times were like 5:30 or 6 or 7. So it seemed like it kind of petered out, and like there wasn't a standard time that you were all meeting at the end of the last roundabout.
And we were all gainfully employed at that time,
Well,
I believe,
as I
not
recall-
retired, I mean.
From the last 3 meetings when they put us on hold,
Yeah,
we
that's
were
why.
also trying to facilitate the ability of different folks coming in who weren't members, who had to speak to it regarding like the town hall startup, and the town manager was coming in, and a couple of lawyers. And I mean, we had some guests, or at least information that had to come back. And then we also wanted to have as many people at the table, and people were working.
Of course, at this time, you have a timeline that you want to meet,
Right.
the big one,
Yeah,
that
So
makes it a little
kind of
different
working
than
backwards.
doing that before, which
Exactly.
was as needed, never got to
Yeah,
the
we
point
were
of.
working to a goal rather than having kind of the goal set for us.
Right.
so what is that date now? What is your?
Well, I was
Tentative.
told by James, and not a specific date, that we should have things in hand by September. Everything should really be completed early September, our presentation to the council, et cetera, in order for a November
A November
referendum
referendum?
timeframe. Mhm.
It's actually, it'll be earlier than
Yeah.
that. It'll be early. So you have to get the question to the Secretary of State's office. That's generally end of August. And then you enter a quiet period. So we can't talk about the project in an official capacity, or the council can't speak about it in an official capacity within so many days of the November election. So really, when you're talking about a November ballot, you're looking at end of August as your drop dead date to have the council approve the referendum question and get it to the Secretary of State's office to have it approved, the wording approved to be on the ballot. So if we're working backwards from that, do you know if this has gone to an 824 referral?
My guess is it probably hasn't.
Probably hasn't.
And
So,
the other thing is that I understand the question and that piece
Yeah.
of the, timeline. But prior to all that, this
Yeah.
body needs to have a presentation to the town council saying, this is what we want and why we want it, and then they have to say yay or nay, or come back with questions, so.
and they'll need to call a public hearing, and they'll need to get bond counsel involved. So they're gonna need, if we're
Couple of
looking
weeks
at,
at least for public hearing.
I was gonna say, so if we're looking at end of August is like the council has to be done with the question, then they're probably gonna need all of July and August to do their due diligence, which means we wanna get them a report for the
June.
last week meeting in June, yeah.
And one thing I'll just point out on the 8-24, technically the property is in the library trust name. It doesn't fall under the control of the town per se. So it may not be required
It's not technically
We are,
town.
Because it's a
we've
private
encountered this
property.
several times. We are.
I understand, and I know you
Yeah.
have, so we may
Yeah.
want to get some clarification
Okay.
from the attorney on that. Is it gonna be required?
Yep.
And what is that form? What does it
An
do?
8-24 is anything that the town does with its property, some kind of improvement or selling it or whatever, has to be approved by council, and then it gets referred to the planning and zoning commission. And then they say yay or nay, and it moves forward. You technically are supposed to get an 8-24 for improvement on town property. So it's more than just going to council. Council hears your presentation, then they refer it to the planning and zoning commission, another presentation is made. And then they agree, and then it gets back to council, so that you're building in more time there.
So
I'm not
even
sure
though it's
And it may not be
technically
required, that's what I'm
not
saying.
town property.
Right,
Right.
so that's what I'm saying. You
Because
just
every
may
time
wanna-
we've had issues, like even when the town put the parking lot up that's leased
Mhm.
from our land, it's our land. They got into trouble because they weren't complying with the requirements of private parking, drainage, etc.
There's Kim.
Hi, Kim.
So
There's her picture.
There she
There we
is.
go. I think she's
Hello.
moving.
I can.
It's reasonable.
Hello, Kim, can you hear us?
I think she's
We
muted.
can't
You're
hear you,
muted.
Kim.
No, she's muted.
She's not, she unmuted herself.
What's their volume?
It's loud, like you started it, said the meeting is being recorded, that was loud,
Can
right?
you unmute her from your?
She's not muted.
She's unmuted.
She's unmuted. She's choosing not to speak.
Kim, can
Oh,
you
I'm-
say-
There you go.
Whoa,
Oops.
Oh no, you froze.
Hey, I've been, I'm complaining this on brain fog. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I apologize. It was buried in my emails. And I have a meeting at a fire department meeting at 7, so I'm gonna have to cut out it from here at about 10 of.
No problem.
And I'm gonna mute myself because otherwise all you'll hear is coughing throughout the whole meeting.
So Kim, just to get you up to speed with where we're at right now, we have decided to table appointing a committee chair, pending appointments of those vacant members. And you guys will do that at a future meeting. And now we're just kind of working through a timeline, starting going backwards. If we want to get this on a November ballot for November of 2024, what would that timeline look like for this body to get their proposal to the town council? So that's where we're at right now on the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Playing devil's advocate here. I mean, it's all well and good. We haven't gotten into the body of it. You have some background work of what the LARC committee had, and I call it LARC because that just it rolls off the tongue from previous incarnations. But we have the previous work here. The library has not been stagnant, has been moving forward with additional studies and other things that we could share with this committee. So we're not starting, we're not reinventing the wheel. However, my concern is to have it presentation ready for the end of June at the very latest. Would this committee, or I think this committee should also consider the potential of not going for a November referendum or a special referendum. I'm not saying it's the best course, but I would hate to rush it and crash.
Yeah.
And I understand what you're saying, and I probably agree with it 85%. However, I think we have enough information from all these years of working on this
I agree, we should
that we
strive
can
for
get
it.
a presentation together to the board
But-
for the council.
I don't want to make it so like it's an all or nothing. We hit the end of June and there we are, there we sit. Sure, all of us in various incarnations, and I think to the grant application we put in, that when you get to the point where you're working, and then a deadline hits and you just can't make it, so it all gets dropped to the
Now, a
wayside.
referendum other than an election is
It's
additional
expensive,
cost.
I know it's additional cost, and nobody wants to do that, I'm not
And who-
advocating for it.
Whose back does that cost fall on? Would it be the presenting body, the library, the requester, or
town.
would it be the town?
It's the town.
Um,
Standalone referendum is about $33,000.
Hmm.
If you want it would be waiting a significant amount of time, but there is generally an April primary, which they could piggyback it onto. So it would be an additional cost because they would need more, same, voter day registrars, they would need more people, but they would already be like semi-staffed for the primary. But that's if you wanted to wait until the April timeframe when they would have that additional.
So a
5 months.
referendum question can be on a primary.
It can be held in conjunction with a primary. It would be its own separate question.
Mhm.
But it can be that way. It would be a day that we already had the registrars set up to take voting in some capacity. So you kind of piggyback on those other expenses. It's not quite that full $33-ish thousand to do it like that. But again, we're talking November to April. So it's really just a matter of timing.
I'm not advocating for it. I'm just saying is that I think we
No,
ought to
I
get back
know.
to our mind.
But being
we
a devil's
aren't ready.
advocate is
Right.
also good.
Okay,
Of course, that decision could be made later, given.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not, as you said,
that's what I'm saying.
late August is the.
So I want to clarify something. So if let's say we make the presentation in June. What is that quiet period?
The quiet period is after the question goes to the Secretary of State's office and before it's voted on. And I want to say for a bond of this, I think it's 8 weeks, but it might be 10 weeks. So there's a time frame where the town is just not allowed to advocate for anything. The town can give factual information. Here's the project, here's the cost, here's the tax impact, but no one on behalf of the town is allowed to give any information with a skew. So to say, here's why you should approve this, or here's why you shouldn't approve.
The town can't, but how about the library?
We're private.
You can, as private citizens, you can say anything. So that includes the counselors. As private citizens, they are allowed to advocate for or against something because that's your right as a private
So we
citizen.
can be out
Mhm.
pounding the pavement.
Exactly.
As long as we say as counselors that we're not.
Speaking as
the
council.
town
But
council,
what about
but
the
it's
trustees of the
a
library?
resident.
That is a separate corporation. That's a separate entity.
So we could be out drumming up.
And the
support
Friends
and
are a
votes.
separate entity.
Yes, the Friends can do.
Right, so if nothing, if there was even any question, we could potentially, the library board could potentially funnel it through the Friends. Okay,
And historically, one could go back, not to go through the whole thing, to the Mill Pond. Business Saving Mill Pond. That was all a group outside of the
Right.
town coming together. It included some elected officials speaking, private citizens, so it's not like nobody's setting precedent or anything.
Yeah.
It's appropriate.
So it's not all dark news.
When would you be planning to bring this before the council?
So
Do you
the
have
current
a-
conversation is to try to get this onto the November 2024 ballot.
Right,
To require the council to have a representation from this body in June, basically. So the council has time during the month of July and the beginning of August to send, if it needs it, send it to an 824 review, hold a public hearing, meet with bond counsel, create the question that would go to the Secretary of State's office and have bond counsel approve it, and then approve the question by the council and then have that sent to the Secretary of State. So really, it's giving the council July and half of August to do your side of the work and presenting from this body by the end of June.
okay, all right.
But again, I would suspect we probably want to get some clarification on the 824.
Yeah, I'm
Because
gonna,
that will build in, some
that
extra
could give
time.
us some more time.
yes, and I will reach out, I'm gonna reach out to bond counsel tomorrow and just ask, just so that gets on their planning as well, because they'll need to be the ones that actually create the question and the explanatory text and talk to the public about what the project is. So I'll get them on board for that, and then I'll get a legal opinion on the 824 review.
And you have all the documents that you need regarding the ownership. very unique relationship between the town and the library board.
I believe I do, but if I'm missing something, I will let you know.
James has it.
Well, they're in the
Yeah.
town budget.
But basically it comes down to is ownership with the trustees operating operations and improvements and expand, and I forget the exact word, but it's primarily the growth of the library is on the onus of the town, and that was the agreement in 1939. But when we had any kind of issues, like for example, something as simple as the signage out in front of the building or the parking lot issues, we are held to a private property statutes rather than the town, because they tried to do some drainage and that wasn't approved properly. And so it gets, we had to get waivers and things like that when the town did some of the work when the parking lot went in. So it gets into some sticky things, but this may work to our advantage this time around with the private.
And of course, it's also, the money is through the town,
For the operations.
private property.
Yeah.
And that there may be a little wrinkle there, and you can write it maybe too. Libraries favor, but still you need to look at that.
Yeah.
advantage
There's a
of-
possibility that the library would be responsible for that additional funding if it went beyond November.
Oh, we go, well, you mean if there's a referendum at another time. It's a responsibility of the town to hold a
Yeah.
referendum. We
Yeah.
don't make that decision. The body does.
I can't think of any instances where private ownership has
Yeah.
gone for referendum
No,
for what,
But again, I know we have new town attorneys and things like that. Again, there is this learning curve about the relationship with the library and the town.
I'll also work on creating a timeline going backward,
Oh,
with just
okay.
some tentative
Great.
dates of what it could look like. And how aggressive we need to be now to get to that end of June, beginning of June, presentation to the council. Do we want to talk about this? This is the last feasibility study that I had in Jeff's files. So if there is something after this,
It's a lot of work after that.
yeah,
Mm.
I
Tweaking.
don't,
I mean, I would,
drawing.
But there's the tweaking, there's the tweaking of this report, and then there's actual renderings on the part of an architect. And the stuff from Leslie Berger, all the new updated stuff, because one thing from 2017 to today, and now I'm putting on my library trustee hat, is to say that there have been so many significant changes, not only in technology, but COVID protocols changed a lot. So usages and things like that, I mean, that they were addressed in the newer version that you don't see in this one.
As well as costs.
Oh, and costs, absolutely.
your
Costs
costs obviously are-
Yes, always,
It's
yes.
flipped and saw,
Oh, no, that would be
That-
lovely if we could do it for that.
I think
We
everybody
can
would be
get
happy.
you
with
the latest.
right,
But in the meantime, as you know, the library has requested of Leslie Berger and her group a meeting because we want things revamped even more so.
now, or we can have that discussion. Yep, are the burgers, are you gonna have them develop your presentation? For council or whoever? It's a thought, it might be more professional,
It's a
not
good-
that we're not
It's a good
professional.
thought. Right now, the library board facilities committee has been working on the premise that we would feed the information to this group who would create it. However, as a library board member, and I don't know, we've asked Leslie and the architect, whose name is Andrew Berman, for additional costing information.
Right.
So, maybe that would solve a problem, time-wise. That's what they do.
both of them are very professional, and also very busy, and we've been as a board dealing with them for a couple of years now. And, you know, we have hot times and slow times in terms of getting back to them. If my feeling would be for, and again, I haven't discussed this with my fellow trustees, but personally, I would like to see, sitting on this committee, let's see what the trustees have developed with the understanding, knowing the trustees are still working on things. I would rather share it with this board as a work in progress and tell them that we're
Oh,
looking to have
absolutely.
these things here, because there's an understanding, as I said, we've got to get from 2017 to 2023 report. And then the upgrades from there. As well as there are the visuals, the renderings that Berman provided, as well as the potential layouts for how the property would lay out on the property. It went much farther than this. So then we're not reinventing the wheel.
And that's what we would, if we went over this tonight, we'd be looking at something. that's
Right,
updated
I
and
think that
changed.
would probably be
A lot of this is.
like
is-
carrying poles to Newcastle.
Yeah.
But perhaps what we need to do, what trustee hat here, go back to the library facilities committee and the library board and say, you know, the question was raised, will Leslie Berger and Berman create a presentation for us? And if, you know, if we can decide, the board can decide exactly what it is that we want them to do, then perhaps they could go forward. I'm just trying to think of expertise, and
you,
they have time, that's what they do for a living,
right,
you know, and we're paying them already.
Right.
So,
and you
Yeah.
may want to actually have them, I mean, there's a couple ways to do it. They could do a nice presentation for you, hand it off, and somebody here presents it. But if they're not there and council has questions about things that we may not understand, you know, the architectures of the look, you might as well have them present it. I would
right,
think
well,
they're there, they can answer questions. It's,
and James indicated that at least the architect should be there,
Well, I think,
you know.
I think we can speak to, to a lot of the soft
Sure.
aspects of
Yeah.
it. But I do think that when you have the nuts and bolts, I think it's critical we have, Andrew there. Now, I have a question of more of bureaucratic question. The board, what the town is paying, because this is part of operations, you know, helping out for these costs, but they're working for the town, but taking their direction from the library board. They already have a relationship with the town.
Mhm.
I'm thinking that once we kind of, obviously, the trustees are still involved through this committee. Once we nail things down under the facilities committee, once it comes to this, there's already a contractual relationship between Berman and also the Bergers. So for them to come on board here, the transition should, to my mind, contractually be a relatively easy switch for them to come on, because we've been dealing with that. We have X amount of dollars to
And I
develop this.
still think there's some money in the pot.
There is. I can't recall the figure right, because that's a different notebook. But I thought there was something in the range of 30
30-something, it seems to
35,000.
ring a bell with me.
there, for the library to continue the work with them. So, as I said, I don't think it would hurt for us to kind of share this. I know that, you know, we still have work to do, but that's not to say that the library members don't come in and represent and say, this is what the library wants to have happen.
Well, the library has to give it to this body.
Right.
And then, for your edification, Eric and Lauren, Leslie Berger and Andrew Berman, who is the architect that she works with mostly, they have done many libraries. This isn't like a new project type thing for them.
and maybe if they end up doing a presentation or however it works out, they could So everybody's on the same page, you know, once they have something done, they can do a dry run presentation in
Mhm.
front of this board and the
Right.
library advisory board, or just you guys, however you wanna do it. I don't, you know, you don't want too many people
Yeah. I
chiming
mean,
in
I
on it, but.
recall attending town hall meetings, building committee meetings. And, you know, it's like we all became best friends with the architect at some point because they were always there. I'm not saying that Andrew or one of his associates would always be here. They also are out of state. They're in New York. And Leslie's in New Jersey, but Leslie is worked in Connecticut.
Yeah, she
She's
was-
been a library director and there's lots of library experience embedded in both their
And the,
heads.
and the beauty of Zoom now is they wouldn't necessarily have to come. You know, so
Absolutely.
you wouldn't have to pay those costs.
Yeah.
Right,
For
they
travel
would
and everything.
need to come. I think Andrew would need to be here
Either
for
way.
the actual, you know, when this body goes before the council. And I'm trying, is that how it, with town hall? Those people were here, right?
Right.
That may or may not be necessary, as Eric was saying. Eric, you were saying just what I was thinking, that because we have Zoom there, and you know, whether it's TPZ or town council, we are very pleased to have people participate via Zoom. That's generally, yeah. I mean, we'll have some internet problem, but generally it runs pretty smoothly.
Well, we can cross that bridge.
Yeah.
Maybe they would prefer to be here at least.
And I think that design and the architect would answer.
And of course, you come back to it, and this is something that we've had, I think a lot of people around the table here understand, but we've had to explain it several times to our fellow trustees, that Andrew Berman and Leslie Berger are not necessarily the people who would be hired to do the work
Right.
on the other side of this. That's a bidding process. It's an
Yeah.
entirely different creature.
Yeah, that's just a rule of thumb.
General question, timeline, once again, how much time do you and those working on the committee and the architect and whatever do you think need before we will have something that we as a body
Right.
can meet to
I
decide
spoke
on?
with Leslie last week and I'm waiting to hear from her. My question to her as a trustee was that, because they had been put on hold because things just weren't happening, you know, so we had so much information from them, the library, facilities committee and trustees, we kind of reached a standoff and decided to put things in abeyance for a bit. And now we're resurrecting everything. And then good news with this body being resurrected. So I will reach out to her tomorrow because it's been about a week since I spoke with her.
Do you think anything that happens has to go to the library board before we meet again? I know
Well,
I know we need something specific, like we have this, and I do know, having attended.
Well, we
meetings
can
as Council Robert,
provide
have something.
provide
to date,
the latest information,
we can provide what we've got so far.
which would be,
Well, you have the renderings, you have the,
Yeah.
we have the.
I mean, the blueprints, I don't think they're gonna change.
The
No,
building.
you just need some renderings
The
right now.
rendering, the estimated floor plans gives you an idea of things like spaces that we wish to include in the
Right.
library,
Of course.
which is part of it. And then we have the long-winded dissertation, if you will, of all the items that expounded on this. I don't know whether was it specifically called, I've seen too many documents. Was it the feasibility study or did it have another name on it?
That's
I don't know, the
feasibility.
latest iteration would be, I don't know, reimagining, it's been around for a while.
Been around for a while.
Oh, the lookbook.
The look,
We do
that
have-
was it.
Thank you,
Um,
Diane. I'm sorry, I'm brain dead.
The lookbook was something that when we were toying with how do we sell this, was something wasn't quite as wordy. Grab you with pictures, bullet points, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. those-
So I mean, all those things have come to the point where they may not be complete, but a lot of them I would say are close to 90% complete.
Yeah, I'm glad you said 90. I was gonna ask. I was going on the lower end. I didn't want to be so optimistic, but I think we have a lot of information. It needs to be refined,
But I also, and again,
not
like I
revised,
said, I
even,
mean,
refined.
I'm speaking as a member of this board.
Yep.
If I hadn't seen all of that, I'd want to see it before I move any
Mhm.
farther.
Yep.
So although the facilities committee might be doing its thing over here, it might move to share and say, this is not complete, but this is where we're at.
Well, I said that earlier. Well, whatever we have that's the latest in information from Leslie and Andrew and the lookbook information, we'll just, you know,
I have a question. I know
kill your email.
in here, and I don't know if this has changed, there are three options. You know, keep the old building, build a new one, keep the two buildings, add an addition, tear the whole thing down, build a brand new library. I mean, you probably, I know those are all the options, and I don't know where you guys are at in that process now, but obviously you're gonna probably want a unified position on that.
That's
Well,
pretty much,
forward.
that has come forward.
Yeah,
We
we-
have to keep the front facade,
Yeah.
that historic
Yep.
Churchill door, et
Mhm.
cetera. And then that first portion of the building has a renovation aspect. But everything from the atrium on back would be new.
New.
And that's fine, you just, I mean, I don't know if you wanna give, you know, have 3 or 4 options up there for when you're talking about, it. You're gonna wanna say, this is what we want, and then you always have a potential
And the
fallback
one thing
position
that
if
we
you
have
need it.
not addressed, and that hasn't been addressed in cost, I don't believe, is, let's say, we've got this etched in stone presentation to include where's the library going to be during construction? That type of
That
cost.
is not, that's not part of it, which is something we do have to consider,
And
but
it's,
it wasn't where the facilities has been mapping out.
right,
Right.
but is that something that needs to be included?
To be
town.
incorporated. in the amount.
It's gonna be, you know, reduced or, you know, whatever, it's probably gonna be reduced services and for a
Storage.
period
Oh,
of
yeah.
time,
In the
yeah.
meantime, I can speak from experience having been on this committee and on facilities. Several of us, and myself included, have gone to area libraries
Mhm.
to view their facilities, what they came up with older buildings, new buildings, what they did. But we also have addressed this temporary aspect, and some of the most unique ways that have been addressed was Meriden
Mhm.
actually took spot in the Old Navy portion of the Meriden Square Mall.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, when
And they served there, and they're actually, it was so well received, they're keeping a satellite office in the mall. So, I mean, there are options, and when I, again, think of our own town, we don't have a Meriden Square Mall, but we do have some empty storefronts that have the potential of that.
Yeah, we do, and then, that is truly.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, that's.
Can I break in for just a minute? I have to leave to get to the fire commissioners meeting. I apologize. The next meeting, I will make sure that I'm,
Oh, we lost you again.
I know about it. It's in my calendar. I'm on time person. Can you hear me now? Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to leave for the fire department meeting. I will be at the next one in person. So just let me know the date and the time. And then I'll catch up if there's anything you want to email to me. Feel free.
Great.
All right,
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay, have a good evening.
Bye.
So, yeah, we can always look at just through planning, I know a lot of the empty spaces. And when, if it becomes an issue of time, we can, you know, address that, yes,
Mhm.
potential.
But,
spot.
but in terms of timing, that was something that when we were trying to prioritize, that comes after we know we're gonna do the building.
Right, because that, yeah, once you know when you have a construction start date, you know, you have that time to plan and move and relocate and adjust as you need.
But I will say, and I'm complimenting my current trustees, that facilities committee tried to pick up when Lark was put on hold, continue forward with the idea that we would be ready with something. We're not necessarily ready, but like I said, I think 90%. I
But
think when
we're-
you see what's
we're
been
very
produced,
close.
it's very close. So maybe June is not pie in
Yeah,
the
it's
sky.
surmountable, yeah.
And that should make the new folks on this committee and you feel a little better that we're not coming in cold and empty-handed. This has just gone odd. I will say infinitum instead of nauseum, but it has been going on for a long time.
And certainly our director, who would be an ad hoc member of
Oh,
this
yeah.
committee, or a representative thereof from the library. She's a walking textbook in
Mhm.
terms of statistics and things like that, and we can tell you usage wise and things like that. All of that has been
It's
compiled
already
into this.
Developed, we don't have to go searching,
Along with
researching.
all the parameters that Leslie's able to bring to it with the library expertise to say what the anticipation, and one of our biggest planning aspects from the facilities committee to these people is in 1988, when the addition went on, already outdated in a lot of things.
Mhm.
So our focus has been future focused, that takes us forward. So that's what you'll see. And you were talking about what kind of options. Back here, we weren't locking into that.
That's what
kind
I
of
figured.
thing.
I figured it's 7 years old, so I
Yeah.
figured.
Eric, I'm sure you're familiar with the library, but have you had the 50-cent tour of behind the scenes?
I've been in a lot of places, library and engineering, looking at different things. I believe I worked doing the fence.
That was me.
Yeah, it was, yeah, okay, it was
She did the
in
fence.
engineering. I know it was mostly Gary, but
Not that we
Yeah.
look like, but we get confused a
No,
lot
understood.
because I think we're just always everywhere.
so I have not had the complete tour, but
Well, you know, to see the space,
I've seen the
Um,
space. I utilize the library. I've made presentations there.
staff space, you know, like behind the circ desk. And
Ventilating air
and
conditioning.
off the quiet
system.
room, you know, staff shares desks. And, you know, they work elbow to elbow,
Literally,
literally,
Yeah.
yeah,
Or when you're not here, I'm in your chair.
I was gonna say
Yeah.
that, yes.
Yeah.
yeah.
Like chair sharing instead of job sharing, yeah.
It's like when you come from a family of a lot of kids, you know, and you get up from the couch to go to the bathroom or something, and say, don't sit in my seat. Fat chance.
So a lot of what was here has been fine tuned, removed.
Yeah.
And decided as to the best direction that the library board feels we should go.
And we, you know, as this body, we would probably like to review that, like we
Oh,
talked
sure.
about, you know.
So are we in limbo? So
Can we
when to
set
meet
another-
next time?
I
or-
don't know what the aspect of those other two individuals, I hate to steamroll ahead, but I don't think we can just wait.
Yeah, I would think we would just have to keep moving whether we have these other two appointees or not,
Yeah.
because
As they come in,
otherwise-
here, drop into the
Exactly.
deep end.
Well, and just for timing, the council meets again Tuesday. There's nothing on this Tuesday's agenda to appoint anyone. And there's a motion in the agenda on Tuesday, the 16th, to cancel the meeting of Tuesday, the 23rd, which means the council will not meet again theoretically until May 14th. So I don't think we have until May 14th
Oh,
to
no,
wait
no,
for
no.
new
Right.
appointments. I think,
So I think we can move
unless the
forward
manager
with,
can do it and just
yeah,
do ad hoc
Yeah.
thing, like you said, and
right, I
get
don't
here,
think
but-
we need a head
Well,
at the moment, you know.
You need a quorum.
Yeah, that's what we need.
mhm.
And I think that we will get all of you, Lauren and Eric and Dave, you may or may not have the latest
you haven't looked at
information.
I don't think that was sent out
I've
to the.
seen an edition, but I haven't seen the latest.
So we can get the latest and greatest to everybody and use that as a springboard for the next meeting.
And the only thing I had to say is I hate to. I'm sure everybody has their own kind of schedules, but I can't turn around and say I have every Thursday open. I have like,
Yeah.
you know, I can't do that. So, I mean, if our goal is to meet, say, 2 weeks from now and have this all reviewed, or next week or whatever, that's fine. I can try and shoot a date, but I can't go, I'm available every Thursday from here until
Well,
August.
the second Monday of every month is our library board meeting. That would be our.
I have a couple
biggest-
of other
Yeah,
commitments.
and I do too, but they're not.
And I know council, of course, you've
I
got
was
those,
going to
you've
say,
got
once you were
those,
done,
you know,
yeah.
council meeting. And I also know that the two counselors have all their liaison. So,
Even though the budget will be done, which is added more meetings or caucuses with one party or the other. There are others, and from my point of view, there are fewer of us. And when there are fewer of us on my side of the aisle, that means we have more committees to go to. They can be spread out. You've got 5 people, but when you've got 3. So as long as I know in advance, and I know it's hard planning. It's a wonderful look at the schedule,
Well,
but.
yeah.
I'll do my best. Like I said, I do have 6 boards and commissions that I have to staff, so.
There you go.
I mean, that's the kind of thing where, I mean, I think we can try and call a meeting. What's
Thursdays are one of the better, I just can't do the first Thursday of the month.
I can't
typically.
either, I have certain.
So
Yeah.
I have.
I have it Reynolds the first and the third Thursdays of the month.
So the
All right,
second,
so
fourth
maybe we're
Thursdays,
looking
maybe.
at the 2nd and the 4th Thursdays. But again, I think when we start getting down to push comes to shove, we'll have to call some special meetings
Yep.
in between.
Yep.
Right.
I'm pretty flexible except for our board meeting.
Right, so if we, today's 2nd Thursday? Yes,
Today is-
okay. If we go with
The
the
25th is in June.
25th,
What day is that?
it's a
It's a
Thursday.
Thursday,
The 26th.
But if we have,
25th,
or
Are you looking
26th,
at-
Pardon me?
May?
April
Okay.
25th.
Oh, 25th. I thought you said 22nd. I was gonna say that's Monday.
I can do it. I did not bring my calendar and I just got a new phone today, so it's been very interesting. I've been getting
So
Peter's
April
calls.
25th, a Thursday. And is 6 o'clock a good time for people?
I can do early, I can do a little earlier, but that's, you know.
The earliest I could do is 5:30, just can't do 5.
And I know Kim works. I don't know how
Yeah.
late she works.
I would think 6
6 is
would
fine.
be the better time for. I can come at any time.
Well, why don't we shoot for this next meeting for 6 o'clock on 4/25? And then, by then, if there aren't any other individuals, at least we can maybe go from there. And if we have to get a chair on board, then we do it then or whatever, if we don't see any more people in the offing. And maybe I'm basing this on experience with other building committees, but I mean, I think we'll probably be every couple of weeks. But as things move along, we may, particularly with the timeline we're establishing here, I could envision most of June being at least once a week.
I know you will share with Janie in terms of need and whatever. And I appreciate so much.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right.
Just so she's in the loop.
yeah. And her current appointment ends June, I think 18th.
That's a
But
whole
that-
other.
Oh,
Yeah.
That might be extended though, right?
that's a
If
whole-
there's
It's
no.
been extended, yes.
It's already been
They've
expended.
had it once.
Yeah.
But at some point, I would think now, would like to have someone that's there permanently that hopefully they can all work with.
Yeah.
Are you at the interview stage?
No,
Oh.
no.
I thought there was-
There has-
doing all that behind the scenes.
The committee has been meeting, there's a committee of 3 meeting as to how to do this,
Mhm.
and they have decided what to do, and
Yeah.
that meeting was so long that I don't know how much
Has-
shared.
Have there been applicants though?
Like,
Has-
It has been posted.
Oh, it
The
has
the
been
recruitment
posted?
has not begun, no.
Oh, Jamie will be here forever.
Don't tell
You
me
know
that,
what
she
I
wants to
think
go
is
home.
gonna happen.
Yeah,
I want to hesitate from saying something.
I mean, not that I fault what she's doing, but she wants to go home.
I've heard that too.
yeah, no, she's fantastic, but yeah, she does
Yes.
have a full-time job here that, yeah, she'd like to get back to.
And she did say up front right from the very
She
beginning.
did.
Yeah, she was been very clear.
Yes.
The fact that she stepped up, I give her credit.
So, I will schedule our next meeting then for the 25th at 6 PM. Tentatively, I'll send a schedule out for every second and fourth Thursday. I will be at your meetings as long as I can be, but I also am on 2 town committee meetings for Weathersfield where I live. I'm the president of my children's schools PTO. I have 2 kids. My daughter is in 3 productions over the next month. So if I can't make it to something, I will have someone here just to run like the technical and take minutes aspect of the meeting, and then I'll watch the meeting and get back in touch with whoever the chair is and just kind of go through what we need to do for next steps.
Mhm.
But I will make every effort to be at all of your meetings.
I don't need to put everything on your shoulders, but I know Jeff Barron took minutes, created minutes.
That was
And
actually,
shared. Well,
he had a little tape recorder right here.
well, he had it, but I'm just saying, I know. I'm trying to think, I didn't use Zoom when I was working, we used another platform.
Teams or something.
But Team, which I loved, and that you could listen to the recording
Mhm.
after the fact and.
And that's the same way
And,
with,
yeah, do that.
I'll have access to the recordings and they go on
With,
YouTube, so
yeah,
anyone
they're
can
all
watch
on
it on
YouTube.
YouTube after the fact also.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
hadn't seen it on the menu.
Well, I mean, I'm looking forward to this, but as I said, I think when you all see what's been created, I think you'll see that whether this goes beyond and to referendum and all, there is a definite vision that has been created. It's well beyond what's happened.
So I expect we're gonna get that next meeting. And then, and you're gonna back into the timeline for
Yep.
us for the
So
other
we're
one.
not reinventing.
No, and I'll
We
have as many
talking tonight
questions
about
as
this.
possible on the other things that we talked about tonight. I'll talk to bond council, I'll talk to the town manager. I'll figure out where we are with appointments and come back to the next meeting, hopefully with much more information gathered and.
The good news is, I think, the good news is this is not a from scratch project
Yes.
for this committee.
Yeah, you already have architects and everybody else on board. You have quite a bit of information. It's just now collating it and getting it ready for a presentation.
I am gonna also mention, if there's ever questions, like I said, I know it's new council. If you have any question about that relationship, besides what can be provided from documentation or James' vast history in his head. You can, Diane is our president, she's like a walking textbook on it as well. And in turn, library being a private entity, has an attorney, obviously they would prefer not to draw attorney into the other, but he is quite conversant in it because he got involved in it with the lease that was developed for parking. So, I mean, there's answers.
Yeah.
It's just if you go to the 1939 agreement that's in the records, it's literally cursive writing. You know, So.
Don't give it to one of your kids to read.
As long as there's no objection, I'm just gonna adjourn the meeting.
Do you have public participation?
We have no public.
She's a
I'm public.
Oh, do you want
That's
to?
why I've been so quiet. Lauren, you don't know me well enough to know. But the only reason I've been so quiet is that I'm public. So first of all, please reach out to me at any time, anybody, for questions, copies, things like that. I have them on my computer. I do think that this is worth a quick read to go through the deficits, because unfortunately, as much as we've tried to update things, it is there. You don't have to memorize it, but if you have time to do a quick read of this, it talks about the different things. It shows you some pictures of what's going on, what some of the challenges are. We have addressed them. We have addressed them with a lot of the post-COVID stuff, because what we would have planned for in 2017 got blown out of the water with COVID. So there are plenty of things from that. And there are some things that have already been addressed through some grant monies and friends donating things and doing stuff like that. So that's why the newer presentation will be much more helpful. I think your next meeting, I'm glad to see that you have the date. I would push for the new members. I'll reach out to Pauline, because I think we had Pauline Kruk from the Dems, because she's also on our board and she had mentioned to me that she had somebody in mind to put forward. So I'll try to fast track that. COVID, the new rules to meet, anything from that end. I think Zoom will help us with, our remote folks that are there. One of the things that they had talked about was the lookbook, and that might be, an easier presentation with some of the backup. But numbers, just as an FYI to you guys, our numbers are back to pre-COVID. So a lot of places, you know, I now work from home 100% of the time. I used to drive up to Suffield every day, right? The new job that I got, they said, well, you're gonna be 100% remote. Are you okay with that? So I had to take the screen off to my happy dance, because yeah, I could deal with that, right? So a lot of the world has changed, but we still use the library, and it's more than just books, right? I'm just gonna do the little intro for that. It's more than just books. Eric, it sounds like you were involved in a different library renovation.
Yep.
That's gonna be great and very helpful. And you're a library user, so you know, but it's not just somebody goes in and gets a hardcover, right? It's all the socialization, it's all the programs, it's everything else that goes on. And it's the services for the town that, you know, we may or may
Well,
not
for the
have.
community, I can't tell you how many moms I know in Weathersfield bring their kids here for programming.
Think of that. Think of
Yeah.
that, right? We have a stellar library that is too small. The board has done a lot of work in planning moving forward. They purchased with board, you know, the legacy funds and donations, the money from the 5K race that are coming up, that kind of money. That's what allowed us to buy the 2 lots and raise them. There used to be 2 housing lots there. I don't know how familiar you are with that. And they raised that land, and then that allowed us, thank God we were set up for it, because when town hall renovations happened, we would have had 6 spots in front of the library with orange cones all around them, you know, to this day, right? Until Garfield was open. So there are a lot of things going on from that. There were monies in this, this body, this Library Additions Renovations Committee. And we chose the words in that level so that you could say LARC. Because it was too confusing between all the communities, but it would be good to know what those monies are and what they can be spent on. But in the meantime, the library is committed to reaching out to Leslie and Andrew Berman and trying to fast track this a little bit to get it going, because we didn't know what was happening. The 1939 agreement from 85 years ago says something along the line, and I'll send you, it is hand cursive written. I took the time when we started this many, many years ago to actually put it in type that, you know, you could read quickly. So I'll send that to both of you.
Right.
But it basically says that the original board of trustees met with the town. Between the 2 of them, they came up with an agreement that the properties would remain in the ownership of the trustees. However, the town would take it on and for maintenance, for expansion, operating, expansion, upkeep, anything else like that, and for staff, stuff like that. So that's why it's not just a completely, you know, public thing. But really, if you think of it, the library does not serve the board of trustees for the library, right? It's not there so that they can exist. It's there to serve the community. So everything that it does, it serves as, you know, I want to call it the senior center. I want to call it Parks and Rec. I want to call it anything else. Other towns just have a library. Right?
It's a department.
It's a department. So we're both, which sometimes works to our advantage, sometimes doesn't, but that's where it comes from. So I'll try and get those things and send it to you. But I think the sooner you can get more people on board here and get the chair going, but I also don't think you can afford to wait.
Yeah, no, I mean, if it's gonna be 4 weeks before we have 2
No.
bodies, then we have to move forward, and people are just gonna have to drop in and catch up.
Right. And my thought is that what we're dealing with here is conceptual. This is what it could be. This is what we think it's gonna
Yes.
cost.
It's every project.
Well, and the
Well-
referendum question is, shall the town bond a certain dollar amount for a project to include some of those specifics?
Right.
But it's not, whatever we present as the renovation plan or the addition plan, it's not set in stone. That goes to a
Right.
new building committee once the referendum passes. So, yeah, it's really, you know, getting that.
New building committee, new architect, new everything else.
Yeah.
right? But it's, yeah, so this is representation. Okay. So, we're excited.
So we're looking forward to retirement in, what, August? No.
Yeah, we'll be involved.
Well, you know what I mean.
Treasurer. I'm treasurer for life.
That's right. That's right. You gotta go find your own replacement. But, and also, Lisa Maston, the library director, stats information. Normally, if she's not available, Karen Benner would come, but because Lisa's out on medical leave for so long, Karen's already done double duty for so
yeah.
much
Triple
that
and-
we felt that both of them would have added to it, but we didn't have to stop because they couldn't be there anymore.
Yeah.
And there's only so much pressure you want to put on somebody.
They was more about starting point. I mean, they have a lot to add, but they didn't necessarily have to add it tonight.
So thank you for volunteering and your interest in the library. Thank you for all of your support and going through and.
You volunteered, Eric? You weren't volunteered?
No,
voluntold.
I'm from the
voluntold.
resident side, so.
Yeah, that's great, that's great.
Great.
And if you ever really want to see every corner of the library, come on over. We can show you some interesting spots.
We've seen some of the ugly spots,
I've seen some of
but I
them.
don't know if you've seen some of the, we were making comments like elbow to elbow. I mean, we've got 6 people working in a 5-person office, and the 5-person office is probably less than half the size of this conference room.
With built-in bookshelves.
With buildings.
Flexibility.
One of the things that people talked about, and not that I feel that we need a library renovation for staff offices, but if you could understand what the staff pulls off with the space that we don't give them. And during the renovation of the town hall, there was a hue and cry over, well, we've got to get these offices smaller and they don't need this, they don't. You still have bigger offices than the people that are in.
And it's staff and volunteers, people who are fixing books and preparing books to go on the shelves and stuff. That's the real elbow to elbow. I mean, even the staff lounge, something pretty simple is, you don't even have.
Oh, but you guys have little coffee stations and stuff around in different areas, whether or not. they're
Great to
stocked.
have 13 different fire hazards. throughout.
It's, so I thank you.
This is a table with a couple of chairs.
Here, I will always, be looking to do the public participation, so please don't take that off the agenda. And I'll try my very best not to, but if you ever had a question in the middle, I'd be happy to help clarify if I knew.
Yeah.
So, as I said, we've been here for a long time, and you probably expected me when you guys were trying to come up with the name lookbook,
I know.
I was looking at you, I'm
so I know, but then she looked at me. You don't have to look at
It
me.
completely just,
No, it's not there.
So I'm excited and grateful that you guys are all on board. So, just from the library in general, that's great news.
When these 2 new people come in, whether if they're experienced, it's, I don't know. The one that was mentioned, I don't think she's had behind the scene tours. I think anybody who serves on this committee has to go look at what the library is currently, so they have an
Have you seen
understanding
it?
of
I have, yes. We did OSHA walkthroughs my
Oh.
1st or 2nd month here.
Went to the basement.
Yes.
Isn't that a pretty spot?
Yeah.
And that's cleaned up.
and that's where the Friends do all their
Yes.
fabulous work.
Yes.
For all the fabulous programs that
And
everybody
the
loves.
library board of trustees,
We don't have anything.
we have a drawer.
No, we share a locked drawer where they can put a check for me. That's it. That's one of my concerns. I'm the treasurer. It's a pet peeve. This is a corporation. And I have all the records in my basement. This is not a healthy way to have things be,
There's-
but they don't have room. They just don't have the room for it. So, I mean, that's the kind, just give us a closet.
And that's all we ask for in the drawings.
I mean, we
The
really,
new-
we're not
The new
looking for a
blueprints will show a
conference
little bit
room,
of board space and more for the Friends.
So it's just, if people don't realize that, you're expecting, you get a lot at that library. But people putting it on are.
Well, and how
making it
times have
happen.
changed, like the book drop, when you
Right,
return a
yes.
book. In the old days, whenever that was, that little closet area where they fall was sufficient, and now it's, you know, when you open the door to retrieve it's like Fibber McGee's closet, you could get killed.
But if you go to some newer libraries, they have
Oh, they
conveyor
have
belts.
conveyor belts.
We didn't put that in.
Times have changed and hopefully we can get some of
So
those
close to my heart.
improvements.
The staff is our biggest asset.
Yeah, absolutely. Staff and friends.